I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the village board meeting, Tuesday, October 23rd. If we'd all stand, we'll have Trustee Nemec lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, when you get a chance, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa.
Present.
Trustee DeVivo.
Present.
Trustee Kajanis.
Present.
Trustee Nemec.
Present.
Trustee Sabo. Present. Trustee Yukich.
Present.
Mayor Daley.
Present. Let me get it orchestrated up here. Okay. So everybody knows there will be no need for an executive session this evening. Are there any amendments to the agenda? All right. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of September 11, 2012?
So moved.
First by Trustee Costa, first by Trustee Costa, second by Trustee Sabo. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa.
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Trustee Kajanis.
Aye.
Trustee Nemec.
Aye.
Trustee Sabo.
Aye.
Trustee Yukich.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the accounts payable for the period of September 27 to October 24th, 2012?
So moved.
First by Trustee Costa.
That was Trustee Yukich.
Excuse me, Trustee Yukich.
Second.
Second by Trustee Costa.
Costa.
Okay. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Trustee Kajanis.
Aye.
Trustee Nemec.
Aye.
Trustee Sabo.
Aye.
Trustee Yukich.
Aye.
Trustee Costa.
Aye.
Okay, the next portion of this meeting is reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I'll start it out. Early voting is now open. Voters can stop by the village boardroom Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Please remember to bring a valid state ID. I'm excited to see that so many residents of all ages are coming out to vote. I actually voted today myself. This is an important election, not just for the presidential candidates, but also for the village of Homer Glen, as our residents are asked to consider the continuation of the village's home rule status. I encourage everyone eligible to vote to make sure you do so. Public information meeting. Next Tuesday, October 30th at 7 p.m., the village will host an informational meeting regarding the referendum on home rule for the village of Homer Glen. The meeting will be held at the Homer Junior High School cafeteria, 15711 Bell Road. I hope to see many attend and learn about this important issue. Under Economic Development Director, tonight the board will consider my appointment of Janie Patch to the first ever Economic Development Director position with the village. We had a tremendous number of qualified candidates apply for this position. After an extensive search process, I'm confident that we found the best candidate for the position. Under accomplishments, congratulations to Homer Glen resident Liz Phillips for being named the NCAA Woman of the Year. Liz graduated from Washington University in St. Louis with a biomed engineering degree and won 7 All-American honors for indoor and outdoor track. She also won several academic All-American honors, helped the cross-country team with the National D3 Championship, volunteered her time in the Student Athletic Advisory Committee, served as a coach for girls on the run, and was a vice president for the Society of Women Engineers. Congratulations, Liz, on all of your accomplishments. Job well done. A quick reminder for everyone, trick-or-treat hours in Homer Glen will be from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Halloween, Wednesday, October 31st. I hope everybody has a fun and safe time. And that concludes the mayor's report. Let's start with trustees' reports, and I usually try to go one end to the other. I think it's your turn, Marcia.
Thank you, Mayor. The Park Committee met last night, and we did talk about the revised park plan, and we hope to review it within the next month to 2 months and bring it back to the board as a workshop, open house for residents and for the board in January. I would also like to find out if I can get this proposed plan on the website maybe, and is it possible we could do some interaction with residents so that they can give us some input if they can't make it to the meetings? So I'd like to see that. Also, staff and I will be going to Springfield October 30th to present our plan for the grant, ID&R grant for the Goodings Grove Park. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee DeVivo. Trustee Nemec?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to just give everybody an update on the ICC order that had come down. Many of us who are on Illinois American and receive bills will notice that we have a rate increase. As I mentioned before, Illinois American had initially filed for a 12.6% increase in sewer. The ICC declined to give them the full amount and reduced that to a 5.2%. So we're pleased that we're only getting a 5.2% increase instead of the full 12.6% increase. So we will continue to be vigilant about the rate increases that Illinois American puts forward as we concurrently move forward with our other options in looking at reasonable and sustainable water and sewer provision here. Also, in 2 weeks, and I know we have something on our agenda about it today, the Homer Glen Foundation is sponsoring the Mike Hike that's in honor of Mike Oliveri. It's a 5K run that is Saturday, November 3rd, and registration can be taken for runners and walkers the day of the race. And the proceeds for that will be putting towards a Veterans Memorial right back here in the Township Park. Proceeds from last year are, as we'll discuss later, funding improvements along the trail, the Heroes Trail. And then finally, I want to just echo as strongly as I can the mayor's support of the vote for home rule for our village. Home rule is more than just about saving the 1% home rule sales tax. Home rule gives this community local autonomy and the ability to zone, to be held accountable to our residents, to be able to determine our fate and our economic growth. I really would encourage residents to read the information that is up on the website, and I understand we are having a mailing going out this week with additional information. This is very important for us. Almost 12 years ago, we fought to incorporate this area because we wanted to have some local control and local destiny. Home rule gives us the added tools that we need to make certain that happens. So I please encourage residents to read the information, and if there are any questions, I know our staff is more than willing to answer those. That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Trustee Kate Janis? Thank you, Trustee Nemec.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'd like to first start off by saying thank you to our local Homer Glen McDonald's restaurant with the owner-operator Bob Freeman and store manager Jenny Smith. Today they held a McCare Night, which is their 5th annual event. This is an opportunity for our Goodings Grove School here in Homer Glen Elementary School to earn money for their PTO. McDonald's has worked diligently with the schools and the PTOs as an incentive for the schools. Tonight was the night that all customers that came into the restaurant, they gave back 10% of all proceeds back to the school and back to the PTO. talking to Jennifer Smith, her statement was, and I had to put this down, it's just a blast. She just enjoys working with the community and the schools and the community and all the parents involved. And it was fun watching them tonight when I went there for my meal and seeing the principal back there working and the kids in there excited to see the teachers and the staff working, and thrilled to have the principal serve them. So it was a good event. It was, like I stated, it was their 5th annual event. Nice job, McDonald's, our very own local business in Homer Glen. As far as Economic Development Committee, our last meeting, we are taking up a couple subjects by the behest of our committee. One of the subjects is outdoor sales. We are seeking further information on outdoor sales at our various businesses with the issues of making them very viable and successful on seasonal sales as they move forward, whether it's through the holiday seasons. So we're looking at information in that going forward in the future. The other subject that came up was in the future, the lighting ordinance in our community. There is a date that's going to be approaching some of these businesses a lot quicker than what they may prepare for. So what we asked for is an opinion on how our ordinance is going to be executed on, with these businesses, on how the standards are going to be set for them, and how the review process on conforming and non-conforming businesses that exist in our community, and the standards that will be set for them. We are trying to head off a big surprise that some of our smaller businesses and larger businesses may face in the future. So as we move forward and we get the opinion on how we're going to apply this ordinance to non-conforming lighting standards in the parking lots of our local businesses, we're just trying to get a handle on that. And we're assuming that all the due diligence has already been met in the past when this lighting ordinance was passed. So we just want to ensure that we understand fully how the compliance is going to take place. And that's it for my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee K. Janis. Trustee Sabo?
Yes, the Environment Committee, I'm reporting for the Environment Committee on the tree planting ceremony. And as you know, the weather has been extremely rainy. The tree planting ceremony for Homer Glen Lands Day is being rescheduled. The new date will depend on when large equipment is allowed to enter the tree nursery, and that is Tierling Nursery, to dig the tree. Communication has taken place between Rick Gomez of Instant Shade, the principal of Schilling School, Ann Christie, and the Environment Committee. The website has been changed to notify viewers that a rescheduling is to take place. Most likely, the tree will be planted next week. We are seeking some available dates from Principal Christie. A new day and time will be announced. And the reason the tree is being planted at this time of year is because it's best for the tree, and trees go dormant. So we've been waiting for this time of year. Stargazing in the fall at Trantina Farm, which was scheduled for October 19th. The rainy and cloudy weather interfered with viewing the night sky. Two astronomer groups, the Kankakee Area Stargazers and Southwest Astronomy Observers Group, were represented. They did not want to disappoint any guests, and that's why they came from a great distance. They wanted to be there just in case the clouds did move, and so that they could communicate with the people that did come. So some families and individuals did attend, and astronomers provided handouts, answered questions, and provided an abundance of information on the fall sky and what they could do on their own. The Environment Committee appreciates the EMA. They were present, and we thank the Homer Township administration for use of the Trantina Farm. And now I want to address the lighting ordinance concerns that the Community and Economic Development has. And this is something that's been an ongoing review with the Environment Committee. It has been going on since 2007 when the ordinance was adopted. We would like to address any concerns that the Community and Economic Development has so that we do not duplicate efforts. And in the spirit of cooperation and also to gain understanding, to clear up any misconceptions or misinformation, and to address the compliance date, which is not a date that's written in stone. In fact, when the ordinance was first reviewed in 2007 as a draft, it did not have a compliance date. And the attorney reviewed it and said, you need something in there, and you can't have it open-ended. So the attorney at that time recommended 7 years, and we felt that that wasn't enough time. So the date 2018 was selected. We thought that was far enough in the future. We also know that education is a great part of this new concept to address light as a pollution. And light can be a pollution. It can be a health issue. And it also is the reason, one of the reasons for this ordinance is to save energy, to show businesses and individuals what they can do to reduce their electric costs. And so the compliance date can be changed. It can be moved. It should not be viewed as a threat, but we wanted seamless government when we incorporated. So we did not want to put a hardship on people. And we still do not want to do that with this ordinance. So I think with the two committees working together, the two chairmen can discuss this, any issues, any misunderstanding, we would appreciate that in the spirit of cooperation. And there's an abundance of information on the website. And the reasons that this town, this municipality, of all towns in Illinois and the United States, was one of the towns that was selected for its unique ability to address light pollution. And even the state has a resolution. I believe it's 0884. If anyone would like to see that, it addresses exactly the purpose of this ordinance. The state of Illinois recognizes that light can be a detriment. Too much of it, we can pull a switch, we can make it happen, we can overlight, we can glare, we can make it unsafe. This ordinance helps clarify all those things so that this ordinance is an advantage to this community and is used as a model ordinance in so many other municipalities for them to adopt as they wish. So, in the spirit of communication, I say to Trustee Kajanis, let's sit down and talk about this ordinance. And I think that we can go further this way and be positive about our end results and success by being a leader in this field. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to follow up a little bit on that, I don't think that it's just the committees that need to talk about this. I understand there's compliance dates that are in the books, and there are, a number of issues that have to be addressed. So I would like to not only see the two committees work together to make recommendations, but this is going to have to come back to the village board as to what we're going to decide on as to how we're going to get businesses to comply or to give them some type of relief on it, some time frame. There's a lot of issues here. So there'll be a workshop in the future after the two committees meet and make recommendations. Thank you for your report, Trustee Sabo. Trustee Yukich.
May I just say one comment,
Go right
please?
ahead.
The Environment Committee has always presented amendments to the agenda with the assistance of the attorney. And so, that is something that we certainly would like to do, but we don't want to have duplication of efforts from both committees asking the attorney the same things. And so, as far as the compliance date is concerned, at that time, the attorney said it can be moved up, and it can be moved up. And so we do not want to create a hardship, but we do want people to understand that if they do are remodeling, as with other ordinance and other ordinance, that if they're doing a certain percentage, why not do it all? So we will bring this back to the board in the effort of spirit of communication, and we would like the board to see that. We are also have a PowerPoint presentation that we would like to make. And that presentation, I think, puts a great light on things. A picture is worth 1,000 words. And we presented this before. There's been many versions, but basically it's the same. Many slides are a little different and so forth. But we welcome the opportunity to show this.
And you'll definitely have your chance to do that.
Thank you very much.
I think you meant, when you were saying moved up, you meant moved back.
I mean, well, what I mean moved up is into the future, up into the future.
I was just trying to get that
No,
clarified.
no, I'm not going to move it closer. I'm going to move
That's
it
why
further.
that's why I mentioned it.
Well, I think that's semantics here, so.
Okay. All right, Trustee Yukich?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'd like to just repeat what the mayor and trustee Nemick said about home rule and how important it is. If anyone does have any questions, go to the junior high. It's very important that this is passed. We're in control of our own destiny. If we lose home rule, we lose some of that. And also, this will be the last meeting before the election, so everyone please get out and vote. It's a God-given right. It's important. It's what you should be doing. So please, everyone, get out and vote. That's my...
Thank you, Trustee Yukich. Trustee Costa?
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd like to hold my report and discuss it under item K, which is new business, the proposed budget for the fest.
There's no problem with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me just write that down. Okay, does the treasurer have a report?
Yes, Mayor, I have the Treasurer's Report of Cash and Investments for September 30th, 2012. It's the 5th month of fiscal 2013. It shows cash and investments in the general fund at September 30th with a balance of $6,343,253.19. The motor fuel tax fund had a balance of $1,553,852.31. The land acquisition fund had cash and investments of $1,238,595.04. The park fund had a cash and investment balance of $834,235.18. The capital project funds, which include the recent bond proceeds, had a cash and investment balance as of at September 30th, a balance of $21,862,746.66. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, John. Does the clerk have a report?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Does the village attorney have a report?
Just very briefly, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
As the board will recall, Shell Oil had asked the board a number of months ago to consider passing a limited groundwater ordinance with respect to the petroleum spill that occurred at the Shell station on 143rd Street and Bell Road. They have submitted a protocol for testing the private, one of the concerns was the need to test the private well at 12660 West 143rd Street as a condition for this board to consider passage of the ordinance. Shell submitted a protocol for the testing. The testing will be performed by URS Corporation. I submitted that protocol to Johnson, Depp, and Quisenberry, which was the consultant that was retained by the board, and Greg Michaud, who is the individual who appeared before the board, submitted an email to me just yesterday that said he has reviewed the proposed protocol to sample the private drinking well, and it is acceptable. URS is following our request so that you and the Homer Glen city officials can have a high degree of confidence in the water sample results. So I would like to authorize the lawyer from Shell to tell URS to go forward with their sampling so we can bring the results back to this board for its final review prior to consideration of the ordinance. If that is acceptable to the board, I would appreciate at least a consensus on that factor. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
I personally don't have a problem with it. I mean, we discussed it at some length some time ago. I'd like to move forward on it. Does anybody have any problem with that? Okay. Then move forward on it.
Thank you.
Is there anything else from the village attorney?
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Are there any task force chairpersons out there that would like to make a report? How about any public safety officials? Okay. How about the village manager?
Mayor, thank you. I have 6 items today. I'll go through them very quickly. This week, we have another tobacco license hearing on Thursday, October 25th at 3 p.m. This will be to have a discussion regarding suspension and revocation of the license. M&M Expo, Inc., doing business as Smokers Expo, received a citation for selling tobacco to individuals under 18 years of age, and also failure to appear at an initial public hearing on October 9th. So we will be having another hearing for them on October 25th. The Village Board's very successful ticket amnesty program, which I've reported to you, but for the public's benefit, the board approved this several months ago and gave individuals with outstanding tickets an opportunity to pay those tickets before we sent their names on to the new State of Illinois program that the board and many communities have adopted. We raised over $1,100 in the payment of outstanding tickets. And so we consider that a very successful program, and I want to thank Kathy Carrick and Doreen Szymanski for their work on that program. The village is going to have a new Christmas tree that we're going to be lighting this year, and we're partnering with School District 33C. As much as I'd like to have this a little bit farther in the future, it's right around the corner, actually. We're going to be decorating a very beautiful evergreen on Bell Road by the main school entrance next to the old white schoolhouse on Monday, November 26th at 6:30 p.m. We're going to light that tree, and there's going to be a visit from Santa and some hot chocolate. And we just want to thank District 33C and the Highway Department, who's going to light the tree, for all the great holiday spirit and intergovernmental cooperation. In the spirit of transparency, the village staff is building a new website that's going to be on attached to our website for the Northern Will County Water Agency. We're going to be uploading many of the kind of documents that the village board has had staff place on our own website. Village-wide, we're going to be having the agency's agendas and minutes and letters of offers to purchase and invoices and all sorts of transparency items like that. We hope to have that up and running in about a month. So people here in town can keep track as we go through everything with the water agency, and if other communities from our 4 partners want to look on it, they can too. So just a little update about that. 2 more items. One, we had a very productive meeting today with the Bengston family, a good community-based business we have here in the community. They had a very successful Sunday this last Sunday. However, it was a little bit of a success perfect storm. There was no Bears game. It was a beautiful day. They had a lot of rain earlier in the month, so they had a record crowd on Sunday, and it did cause some traffic backups throughout the community. So they were gracious enough to come in today. The entire family, I think, was here, and they met with the lieutenant and I, and we talked about traffic issues going forward and how we can hopefully make sure that we don't have the kind of traffic tie-up that we had on Sunday. So we're working on that. Lieutenant's going to keep working with the family, and we'll report back if there's anything we need to update the board on. It was a very successful meeting. We wish them well for the rest of their season. And finally, it's that time to just report on our latest ABCD Staff Recognition Award. While he's not here, John Robinson and the EMA volunteer crew are going to be getting the next ABCD Award. The ABCD Award is a staff-generated award for above and beyond the call of duty. That's what it stands for. And so I don't really need to go through all the things that the wonderful volunteer crew does for the village. We heard a little bit tonight, but there's so many things that they've done. So our typical award, instead of being given to the individual, will be given to the group, and they can use it for an upcoming meeting that they have to enjoy, maybe with some food, and that cash comes from me. So that's it. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Cam. That concludes reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. The next portion of this meeting is public comment. Thank you, Joe. The only person here to speak tonight is Jerry Kuzansky. please take the mic and give us your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Jerry Kazanik. I live at 14549 South Mallard Lane in Homer Glen. What else did you want?
Just share with us what you'd like to say in public comment.
Okay, my concern is the amount of air pollution that exists in Homer Glen. I don't know, I'm looking at an article here that was printed in the newspaper December 3rd, 2009. It said the village has received gold level designation as a clean air community. Contributing factors to the village's achievement include their continuing education to the community on clean air and so on. The next level the village will work toward will be platinum. I don't know exactly who has designated, has given you this designation, and I kind of wonder whether or not I'm living in the same Homer Glen that that you are. Because what I've noticed, having lived here since 1980, is the amount of air pollution that's being caused by people who decide to burn yard waste, in particular leaves. And leaves don't really burn very well. They mostly smoke and smolder. And there's only really a handful of individuals that feel that it's far more important for them to try to burn their leaves and try to get a large pile down to a smaller pile of burnt leaves, which accomplishes really very little. But in fact, what it really does is it just causes a lot of a nuisance and a health hazard to all of the people who happen to be downwind from the pile of burning leaves. And I took the time this afternoon to call up the adjacent municipalities, Lamont, Lockport, Mokina, New Lenox, and Orland Park. And none of these municipalities allow for burning of leaves. And I'm wondering why it is that in this day and age, Homer Glen is unique in allowing for leaves to be burned when obviously there's no real benefit to it. We do have yard waste pickup, and if you can't fit your leaves into the blue 90-gallon container, you just put them in additional containers, and the garbage men are happy to take it away. So there really is no need to have this practice of leaf burning. And several years ago, I asked someone in the village here about it, and I was told if I don't like it, I should just stay inside my house during the leaf burning months. In other words, during October and November, I should just be a prisoner in my own house because a handful of individuals decide that they want to burn their leaves, and if I don't like it, I should just stay inside. So I'm kind of wondering what you would plan to do about this, because it's been an issue with me for quite some time. And I've been told, call the sheriff, call the police, the fire department. Why doesn't Homer Glen have an ordinance against leaf burning the way these other 5 municipalities do? And if you think leaves should be burned, I can see where someone is on 100 acres or so, it doesn't bother anyone, that's fine with me. But if someone wants to burn leaves, my answer is burn all you like. Just keep the smoke on your own property.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Okay, the next portion of this meeting is legislation and action items. This would be I-1. Is there a motion to authorize the village board to accept and receive the 2011-2012 village audit?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by trustee Nemec. Ed McCormick, audit partner with MPS, will be reporting on the audited financial statements and answer any questions. Mr. McCormick?
Good evening, Mayor.
Take it away.
Appreciate the opportunity. Hopefully you have a copy of the report in front of you. I'm going to try to go through it. It's about 65 pages. I'll touch on some of the highlights and then see if there's any questions that I could answer. But as it's the report for the year ended April 30th of 2012, the most recent year, it is a comprehensive annual financial report which has 3 main sections. We've been doing a comprehensive report ever since the beginning of the village. Starts with an introduction section which has a transmittal letter. It's kind of a broad overview of the economic conditions that the village faces, some of the major initiatives, just kind of some
introductory information that helps the reader of the statement kind of get a feel for what the village faces. Then followed by that is the Certificate of Achievement and Excellence in Financial Reporting, which was awarded for the year ended, the report for the year ended April 30th, 2011. You've received this award every year, again, that the village has been in existence. This report is also being submitted for that award, and it would be our expectation that the streak will stay alive. Then there's the list of the names and titles of the principal officials as of the end of the year, an organization chart for the village. And then on page Roman numeral 10 is our contribution to the cause, is the audit opinion. And basically what we're explaining to the reader of the statement in this is that we've audited your financial statements, that your responsibility for the statements, it's our responsibility to perform the audit and issue an opinion. And that's basically what we're trying to explain in our somewhat convoluted accounting language, that we've conducted the audit in accordance with the generally accepted auditing standards, that we've tested transactions, looked at documents, basically trying to determine, are your records such that we can form an opinion? And that opinion is the third paragraph, which is, in our opinion, the financial statements do fairly present in all material respects the financial position and result of operations for the year. So basically, a clean opinion. We feel your systems are such that the transactions that are recorded and the ending results are truly a reflection of what has transpired and where you stood at the end of the year. We in the accounting world would call that a clean opinion, and I think you as a board should be pleased to receive that. There are some additional information that is included in there, the document that's not required. Anything that we could perform audit services, or audit procedures, I should say, on, we have. So other than there's some information in the management discussion analysis and some of the statistical information that we're not able to audit. But basically, everything that we haven't been able to go through, we feel is appropriate. And even the other information we feel is consistent with the numbers presented. So I think all in all, a clean bill of health, and I think I'm very pleased to be able to provide that opinion. Just some of the next section would be getting into the management discussion analysis. It's kind of the story behind the numbers. Starts on Roman numeral 12, talks about some of the financial highlights. As of the end of the year, your net assets, your assets exceeded liabilities, so you had net assets of a little more than $37 million. Now that does include the infrastructure and some of the other capital items. There was some restricted balances in there as well for the highway and streets and for the parks. Looking at it from a fund financial statement, you had an ending fund balance combined of a little more than $13 million. This last year, getting back to the net assets, there was an increase of over $2.7 million over the year, the revenues exceeding the expenses. And then the last item in the highlights talks about the fact that with the charge from the state of Illinois for the construction of the ramps to 355, you did pay down the debt. There's still $1,250,000 left outstanding as of the end of the year. The following pages talk a little bit about the funds. There's a comparison of the governmental net assets on page Roman numeral 14, showing that your total assets went from $36 million up to a little over almost $39.2 million. Liabilities, on the other hand, decreased from $2.1 million to just barely over $2 million. So the net difference is that increase in the net assets. And on the following page, on page Roman numeral 15, breaks down the revenues and the expenses. And probably the biggest change you'll see is that the revenue increased just in the sales tax area. And I mentioned earlier about the home rule. Home rule does have an economic impact as well. About $515,000 of additional sales tax because of home rule. And again, you continue to have no property taxes as a revenue source for the village. There's a couple pie charts indicating where the revenues come from. The 51% of your dollars did come from sales tax. And then on the following page, on page 17, where the dollars were spent, in between public safety was 44% and highway and street was 25% of where the dollars went. Another item, just as you're going through and reading this, to point out is that under the budgetary highlights, that the budget that was adopted for the year from, and this is looking at it from the general fund, that you are $851,000 under budget as far as your expenditures relative to the budget that was adopted. So that's one of the things. You really don't have a lot of control over your revenue source. the dollars are going to come in based upon how people spend money or what have you, but, it's where you're spending the money you have to control, and that, it's always good to see a positive budget variance there. You adopt a budget, which I think you're pretty conservative as far as your revenues and expenses even going in, and you exceeded that with the actual results. The financial statements begin on the numbered pages. There's a little more detail regarding the entity-wide or the statement of net assets and statement of activities on pages 1 and 2. On 3 and 4, it starts into the fund financial statements, which is how you adopt the budget, how it's reported to the state controller on the annual financial report. There's just a couple things I'd like to point out as far as that goes. As I mentioned before, that budget surplus on the expenditures is on pages 9 and 10, gives you the detail. In almost every category, there was pretty significant positive variances, and even again on the revenue side, you had about a $600,000 positive surplus as far as the revenues exceeded your expectations. The balance of the statements get into a couple other budgetary comparisons, but then the next section I'd like to talk about then would be the notes of the financial statement. And these are pretty similar to what's been reported in the past. Just a couple highlights here would be on page 23, talks about the investments. As of the end of the year, all your investments, anything that was a rated investment, was all AAA rated, and then the certificates of deposit, which are not rated, but you had a maturity of less than a year. So in this interest environment, you're not earning a lot, so it's a good idea to make sure you're safe, as well as fairly short term. And in like your Illinois funds, it was 28-day maturity, and then IMET was even 5 days. So I mean, your dollars are available, and if rates ever do increase, you'll be able to take advantage of that. Capital assets are on page 24. There was about $360,000 of additions this year, mainly in land improvements, and then depreciation, which is included in the expenses on the front, is a breakdown on the bottom of page 24. I mentioned earlier the long-term liability. The only note you have out there is with the state of Illinois, the Highway Authority, relative to the entrance ramps at 355. Then there's a little description regarding your involvement with the IMRF. And then finally, as I think was also mentioned earlier, is that subsequent to the end of the year, there was the bond issue was for the economic development of $15,640,000. It did take place. The balance of the report then gets into some additional details regarding the individual funds. I won't go through those. And then the final section talks about some of your statistical section. It gives you, now we have been able to, for around more than 10 years, we got a rolling 10-year summary of the different financial details, sources and uses of where the dollars came from. There's direct and overlapping debt on page 41 to show what the total debt burden on the residents would be. And then finally, some operating indicators that this is only the last couple of years that those have been accumulated. As the years go by, this schedule will continue to grow. So that, hopefully quickly enough, is a summary of the audit. I'll stop. Are there any questions regarding?
Yeah.
I'll go through it as quick as I can.
Yeah, I have one question. You mentioned 50 million. What page was that on again?
The debt that was issued?
Yes.
Yes, that's on page 28.
Yeah, let's see here.
It doesn't say.
It's a subsequent event, because it wasn't part of this audit because it happened after April, that the bond proceeds.
15.
It doesn't.
15.
15,640,000.
Oh, 15 million.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you
No,
said
not
50.
No, 15 million, yeah.
All right.
It'd be nice to have an extra,
Well, there's a big difference between 50 and
that's true.
15,
Yeah, no, 15 million.
So, I thought he said 50. I thought he said that, so. Okay, I have no questions. I'd just like to thank John Sawyers. I've been working with him now about 5.5 years. He does an excellent job in communicating to me and the trustees in a simple fashion, our budget, our finances. He's always available, and he's worked hard to get this award every year, and we've achieved it, and we once again continue not to have a municipal tax as a result of very responsible financial planning. And thank you, John.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank Ed McCormick and Kate Marcel. They're always outstanding to work with. So it really was another good year, and happy to report the good results.
No, I was going to echo the same thing. Is that Christine, who is in charge of the audit, is with me tonight, and John does a nice job of getting everything together, making, our lives easy. An audit is not something that everybody looks forward to, but it's a necessary part of the process, and it's, it's a good check and balance. And just the fact that there's the additional letter that was provided, we have to put in writing the results of the audit, and there's, everything in there is very positive. We didn't have any difficulties, there weren't any concerns. As far as the adjustments that were required, they were minimal. And there was, basically one journal entry that we had to record. So I think you're right. You do have a good, strong, set of controls in place, and the people, and John and his group are doing a nice job of making sure that things are done properly. And I think it's a positive reflection on you as a board as well. So all in all, I think a real positive audit.
Thank you. And I'd also like to thank the people that work with John in the office, preparing John on a day-to-day basis when he shows up. John isn't here every day. When he comes, staff has things prepared for him. There's a number of support staff, Yelena, the clerk, Kathy. So I'd like to also thank them because they make John's life a little bit easier, a little clearer, a lot clearer to us, and it works out at the end of the day with the audit, which is fantastic news.
Yeah, it's all working well.
Does anybody have, Trustee Nemec?
Yes, Mr. McCormick, thank you. I don't know, is this probably about the 11th time you've presented?
Well, I think we've been here since the beginning, so.
I think so, and each time you make us feel very good, and John, of course, you're just the financial guru. You really are. But it has been, just a really wonderful to hear the news that not only are we in, a positive way here, but the strategy that we began in 2001 to really try to live within our means, to not issue a property tax, and to look at revenue sources with the least impact on our residents has really resulted in this. So thank you very much for your objective partnership.
Well, I appreciate it, and if there are questions, I know if John has questions from time to time, he'll give a call, but if there's anything we can do to help during the year, please don't hesitate, because we appreciate the opportunity. So again,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. McCormick? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Kate Janis.
Aye.
Trustee Nemec.
Aye.
Trustee Sabo.
Aye.
Trustee Yukich.
Aye.
Trustee Costa.
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be I-2. Is there a motion to approve my appointment of Janie Patch to the position of Economic Development Director at an annual salary of $80,000?
So moved.
First by Trustee Kate Janis.
Second.
Second by Trustee DeVivo. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Nemec.
Aye.
Trustee Sabo.
Aye.
Trustee Yukich.
Aye.
Trustee Costa.
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo.
Aye.
Trustee Kate Janis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mayor, if you don't mind, because I don't know that everybody in the audience, we have a lot of regular attendees. Director Patch now is here. Jay, if you want to stand up, and then everybody, when you want to see her in the future, you can certainly say hello. We appreciate you coming tonight.
Sure. Come up, say hello, introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. I'm Janie Patch, and Mr. Mayor, Board of Trustees, and everybody in the room here tonight, and I suppose at home as well. I'm very pleased to join you this evening. This is a great opportunity, and I thank you for this appointment. I'd also like to just take the opportunity to tell you that I intend to be committed to being a collaborative leader and facilitator in Homer Glen. I also will be focusing on the village's strategic economic development goals, and I will be dedicated to the principles of professionalism. So I am very much looking forward to working with the village management team and actually getting started the middle of next week. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck. All righty, let's see here. Then we would be on to I-3. Is there a motion to waive the $50 permit fee associated with the installation of the Veterans Memorial Garden along the Homer Glen's Heroes Trail at Hiawatha Trail Connection?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by trustee Costa. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kate Janis?
Aye.
Trustee Nemeth?
Abstain.
Trustee Nemeth abstained, for the record. Motion carries. We would be on I-4. Is there a motion to approve the attached bid proposal for Chicagoland paving for the Amberfield Townhome subdivision roadway improvements in the amount of $87,976.14?
So moved.
First trustee Costa, second trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Mayor, if I could just say real quick, from this point forward on any of the expenses related to the subdivision, since this is a letter of credit acquisition, you'll see a little spreadsheet now on future supplement sheets, and we'll count down the money, so you know always where we're at. So tonight, if the board approves this, in addition to the $8,000 that you've already approved for engineering, for the plans, and then for construction inspection, you'd be at $102,881.42 left. And then, of course, there'll be some legal fees and whatnot related to that too. But we'll keep an ongoing running total and put that on all your future supplement sheets.
Thank you, Kim. Trustee DeVivo, you wanted to say something?
I just want to make a comment. I have to congratulate Director Salamowitz for the quick efforts on this. It really has moved through the process in record speed, so thank you.
Thank you, Trustee DeVivo. I'd just like to say, too, this will be a very positive thing for the people of Amberfield. They've been waiting a long time. There was a letter of credit in place, and it's been pulled, and we're putting the asphalt down so that we can get the highway department in there to take care of the streets, and I look forward to getting it done shortly. Weather, please hold out so the asphalt plants don't close, okay? All right, with that being said, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kate Janis?
Aye.
Trustee Nemeth?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Motion carries. With the I-5, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 12-048, an ordinance authorizing the placement of a traffic control device stop sign at the southeast corner of Badger Lane and Woodland Drive?
So moved.
First by trustee Yukich.
Second.
Second by trustee Costa. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kate Janis?
Aye.
Trustee Nemeth?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Motion carries. I-6, is there a motion to approve a proclamation designating October 27th through November 3rd as National Physical Therapy Week in the Village of Homer Glen?
So moved.
First by trustee DeVivo,
Second.
second by trustee Nemeth. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
Trustee Kate Janis?
Aye.
Trustee Nemeth?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
Aye.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Motion carries. This would be I-7. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 12-049, an ordinance granting a map amendment changing the zoning classification of certain real property hereinafter legally described and located generally at 14059 West 159th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, from A1 Agricultural Zoning District to C3 General Business District. This is the Dunn Farm.
I so move.
First by trustee Sabo,
Second.
second by trustee Yukich. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
I just found it curious. Usually when a recommendation from the Plan Commission comes forward for denial, the motion is to deny. And this seems is a motion to approve. Is that correct?
The village attorney can
You're
handle
actually
it.
making a motion to approve the ordinance. You're not accepting or rejecting you're not making a motion to deny the
Well, I
recommendation of
recognize
the
that.
Plan
It just
Commission,
seemed,
although that's incorporated into the ordinance.
The fact that the Plan Commission did deny it is in the record.
There's a recitation of it in the ordinance, but you can make a motion.
I thought, Norm, I know in the past, though, recommendations have come forward with the motion had been to deny not, but that's fine.
That might be a function of just, in my previous community, we always did motions to the positive, so I wasn't aware that that was a standard practice here. But it's probably a function of just my past experience.
All right, thanks.
Okay, any
And
other?
Mayor, the attorney representing the petitioner is here if the board does have any questions.
I do have one other question, Mayor.
Trustee Yukich, go ahead.
I tried looking it up, and I did not find it over the weekend. I couldn't find my book for the comprehensive plan, and I went and grabbed some of it tonight. Isn't it already zoned C3? Because when the village incorporated and took the big tracts of property, they left it open as an agricultural situation so people could still come here and farm. But they had it backed up that if they decided to sell the property, that it would automatically revert back to a C3. But if it reverted back to a C3, it also incorporated more of the property than what they're actually asking for now. And I don't have it in front of me. I apologize for that, but just going by things that I remember and people have talked about. But it was supposed to be almost, I think, 1,200 feet back. So the only thing that does worry me is if we do approve something, is it possible that if we approved it, that we could lose part of the commercial property?
My understanding, and I could be corrected by the village manager or by the ordinance itself, is our comprehensive plan calls for 600 feet.
It's a minimum. It's suggesting a minimum 600 feet. In the current comprehensive plan, the property is identified as general agricultural, which is interesting because so much of the property along 159th is designated as commercial. So I'm assuming that there's it's not really mentioned anywhere in the comp plan, but there must be some historical reference for why the Dunn Farm was kind of segregated and kept agricultural for some reason, because the properties around it in the comp plan are commercial. So I can't really explain that historically, but it does show up in the comp plan as agricultural, and the comp plan also suggests at a minimum 600 feet. You have countless properties along 159th at different depths. The properties that are currently around this particular property, Glenview Walk, the farthest back, goes about 533. At Stonebridge, it's 530, the commercial zone section. Hidden Valley's 400, Glen Oaks further away, 200, etc. Denolfo's is about 500 back. So this will actually be, except for Eagle Rock is 1,240. That's Eagle Rocks. Except for Eagle Rocks, the rest of them are actually less than 600 feet in the immediate area. So that's just a reference for today for your commercial property that's in the area.
In my meeting with the attorney for the owner, and also the owner came in, the request to zone the property is so that they can market the property. They want to move on. They have potential people looking at it. They are willing to come forward in application form to move it to commercial designation, which it currently isn't. It's agricultural. That's basically the purpose of this whole exercise. Go ahead, Trustee Nemec.
Trustee, you could just write, and I know that while we put a minimum of 600 feet, the comprehensive plan does indicate that that particular area would be a significant amount of commercial. I am concerned that we approve zoning at 600 feet, which is our minimum, without a plan in front of us. Whereas, and having been through the comprehensive planning efforts for this community, we had really envisioned something deeper, something not just, the potential of another strip mall coming through. If we approve this zoning now, then if plans came forward to develop a strip mall and we'd say, no, we want something deeper, we don't have a recourse.
The whole intention for the attorney for the applicant is stepping to the microphone. The whole intention of it is that they meet the minimum depth of the lots, which is more than the lots that are proximate to this property. But the purpose of not going to some extreme is that the village would never give back that. I mean, if he can always expand it and come back and say, we would like to reconsider from 600 feet, we have applicants that would like to move to 1,200 feet back. That's always a possibility. If the applicant comes in and puts some extreme number out there that is either 800, 1,000, 1,200, whatever, I highly doubt it, in our conversations with them too, and this was something that they brought up, that the village would ever give them back any of the property that was zoned commercial for multifamily housing, anything but commercial. So they are meeting the ordinance, the 600 feet, which is more than any other commercial entity in the, commercial property in the area. But I'm not trying to sell this to the village board. I'll let the applicant explain his position on this. Go ahead, George.
Thank you, Mayor. And for the record, George Arnold, appearing on behalf of the petitioner. Trustee Nemec, so the mayor is correct. The whole purpose of us being here, because normally we come with a whole plan, and you're aware of this property. The owners of this property have been working for years to try to develop this property and get some interest. They've been running into recently, just kind of a reaction on the current status of the market, or on the street, so to speak, that, hey, what's it zoned? Well, it's zoned ag. Oh, well, we don't want to. It seems to turn people off. In answer to your question, though, about what recourse does the village have, my understanding of the village ordinance for commercial development has always been that it has to come in as a PUD, which means no matter what this is, if this was a 200-foot strip, you don't have to approve it. We don't have, my understanding of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Horvath, but we don't have a right to just come in and put a strip mall. We have to come in as a PUD regardless, and that gives the village the right to some control over what goes there. So I think that's your protection. I don't think you're exposed here in any way. But regardless, the reason we chose, well, actually we chose 400, but the reason we chose 600 was because 400 was objectionable to the Plan Commission. But the reason we chose the initial length was to give us, as the mayor said, the most flexibility that our people had on the street. Again, you've seen many variations of this plan for the Dunn Farm, which will, would likely include some residential towards the back and some commercial in the front, some different formation. And we want the flexibility to be able to come in and design that, the way that's going to ultimately make sense and present to you. And the concern was that, frankly, that if all of a sudden there's 1,200 feet or 1,500 feet zoned commercial, we come back in and maybe we want a little bit less commercial for some other reason, that all of a sudden people are saying, well, wait a minute, how are you giving away commercial now? And we didn't want to have to deal with that, because again, the whole purpose of us being here is to try and jumpstart and put us in a more favorable position when the client is marketing this on the street. But again, I think you're protected because it has to come in as a PUD, and at that point, PUDs can be denied. So.
Go ahead, Trustee Nemec.
If we approve it as with the zoning with 600 feet, and don't get me wrong, that area is, in my opinion, needs to be commercial. And I fully support rezoning it at some point. But if we zone it commercial for 600 feet and the PUD comes in compliance of that 600 feet, it still seems to me that we really wouldn't have a very solid standing to deny something that would fit within that zoning. Is that?
But I don't see how you can deny a request of a petitioner that is compliant with our comprehensive plan.
We don't have a plan in front of us.
Well, all you're doing is you're classifying it as commercial zoning, as the applicant stated. You have every right as the petitioner comes in with a plan to deny it under a PUD.
I think.
Trustee DeVivo?
Just a quick comment. If someone owns 40 acres of land and they want it, and it's currently owned ag, and they come in and want it pre-zoned residential, do we deny that, or Is that the same type of principle as what Trustee Nemec is saying? Or is that still protected?
Could you put it in question form for the village
Well,
attorney?
I just am curious to know if this is the same thing. Yes, I'm curious to know if it's the same thing, if someone owns 40 acres and they come into the village without a plan and say, I have this ag property that I want to zone residential for future use, can we deny that? Is it the same principle as this, where we're, concerned that just saying, zoning it, commercial may be a problem in the future? Or are they still under that PUD type of thing?
Well, everything comes in as a PUD, but...
So even the residential would be protected too?
Yes, but in a situation where you have a $100 million road coming in front of a property of this size in our commercial district, you would never consider the frontage as residential.
No, I don't mean this. I don't mean this
is actually
property. I'm just talking about in general, some other piece of property, because it's my opinion that like the petitioner said, he can always come back and ask for more. I don't really have a problem with them coming in and zoning this.
In answer to your question, a residential development that comes into the village isn't required to come in as a PUD.
No.
It can.
Isn't? Okay.
It can, and it's likely that some would.
So that wouldn't be
but
protected.
it isn't required that they come in. Whereas on the commercial side here,
It is.
you are unique and very progressively so. All the commercial projects have to come in as PUDs. So it has a little bit more protection than the residential.
And you have zoning districts.
Yeah.
You wouldn't request a residential zoning in a commercial district, especially on 159th Street.
No, I understand that. I was just using that as an example to say whether or not, we have why we would say no to this. But I also want to make a comment that, with the tollway coming in and the amount of property they're going to take, that's another concern, whether or not this is going to actually be deep enough. And, I have a feeling that even if we say yes to this, they're going to have to come in and ask for more because they're not going to be able to fit it on here if the tollway goes through with their plan.
Well, that was the purpose at the Plan Commission of them coming in with 400 feet, was that the taking possibly from the state, the property wouldn't be deep enough. They are coming before the village board, understanding that after conversation with the owner and the applicant, that 600 feet would accommodate the taking from the state, and they would have additional property in the event that they wanted to make their commercial entity larger in the future. Basically, what this is all about is they want to be able to market their property. They want to get commercial zoning for the property. We have discussed, and I'm sure certain trustees, I know George has mentioned that other people know about it and stuff like that, who they're trying to bring in. They need to move it along to commercial zoning. Then from there, they're going to be trying to sell it to their clients. They're going to come in with a plan that the village board will say, we agree with this PUD or we don't. It's too stacked. It needs more depth. And that's where your negotiation comes in a PUD. So, that's in my feeling why he's standing in front of us, and in my discussions with the owner and also the attorney for the owner. Go ahead, Trustee Sabo.
My understanding of the comprehensive plan that this property is slated for commercial. It's a wonderful location. It's a wonderful piece of property. And it has the potential to really be a great thing for Homer Glen and bring in the sales tax that we are seeking and furnish areas to shop for our own residents, as well as those people that are coming through. That's important. It's also important that it's done correctly, that it's not done in a piecemeal fashion. And my concern, and I think that this is what Trustee Nemec may have been talking about, or maybe Trustee DeVivo, and that is that once a property is zoned 3C, even though there's a PUD, which is what we like, because we want to be able to know what is going in this property. We want to be able to make sure of a number of things. It's good planning practice. It is not a good planning practice to zone something when we don't know what's going in. Because, and I want to ask the attorney to clarify this, and the question is, if everything, and that's why the Plan Commission gave us the sheet on the possible things that can go in a C3 category. There are a number of them, and they're not all really that well defined. So there are some unknowns as to types of businesses and so forth. But if we rezone C3, we have to accept any business that is proposed in the C3 category. Is that correct? So we cannot deny it once we zone C3. This is what I would like to have clarified.
You would be changing the classification today. Does that mean that you, prior to any development coming in, you can't change the uses in the C3?
I'm saying that we have to accept any uses that are being proposed to the board. Any uses, any and all
Nothing is being proposed
uses.
this evening, other than to change the zone.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But you're asking me, would you then have to allow any of the current uses that are presently in a C3? Keep all the present uses that are in C3 for the future? No, you can change those, and if the developer doesn't come before you with a PUD until, our proposed PUD until 2 or 3 years down the road, you don't have, if these uses change, they're limited to those uses. You're not stuck with those uses if you think some of them don't fit where they are right now. But this is a change in the zoning classification. You're not saying we're going to change our zoning classification and, by the way, we're going to keep all of these uses in place with respect to this particular parcel. No, you're not saying that at all.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you've answered my question, though, because my question is that any and all of these uses, if were brought to us, would have to be accepted because we have already zoned it C3.
If that is in place at the time when the development comes forward, yes.
We can say yes. Can we say no?
Well, they have to present you with a planned unit development proposal. If those uses are in C3 and some or all of them are what are part of their proposal, then you just can't arbitrarily say, well, we're not going to allow this anymore. But in the meantime, if you want to revisit the uses in C3, you can do so. You're not limited.
I think you've answered the question, that if we don't like some of the uses and they're in here, we can't say no.
No.
No, what you would do if you don't,
you should change them now.
Yeah, if you don't like them, if you don't like what we're allowing in C3, then let's change the ordinance to reflect what we'd like to see in C3.
No, that's not where I'm going. Where I'm going here is that the board will have to understand that everything that is in the C3 will have to be accepted. That is what I'm saying. I'm not talking about changing anything at this present time or even later.
Right, but that exists up and down the street right now.
So
all your properties that you have C3, all those properties that Cam mentioned that aren't as deep as this property, all are able to do, if they submit something, that you approve the PUD, those type of uses in C3. If you don't agree with those type of uses in C3, that's a whole different argument. Then you need to change the uses within C3.
No, that's not. I'm not asking that. I'm not asking about how to change it. I'm talking about we ought to know what's going into a piece of property before we change the zoning on it. It really is good planning practices to do that rather than to give a blank slate here, and then we may take something that we don't want to take. I'm not saying anything about changing what's presently in C3.
Mr. Mayor.
I just feel that the property has potential. I'd like to see it for this commercial area. I'd like to see it planned all at once. I'd like to see our new development director, Janie Patch, be given a chance with this, and I'd like to see the potential. Now, I know that the petitioner would like to have this redone, rezoned, but to me, it's not a big enough parcel. And I also think that they should only want rezoned what they actually can use for commercial. So, we know that that's not 31 acres. So I'm concerned about what's going in there. It's an unknown. We know it would be commercial. We also, a PUD provides us for careful planning, and I think zoning something without knowing and giving a carte blanche here is inviting a problem.
Trustee Yukich, I'll get you. Trustee Yukich, we've done it in all those other cases that you just mentioned, or that Cam mentioned about the depth of the lots, that this is more than those that exist. It's been done.
Well, I'm talking about rezoning C3 blanketly. That's what I'm talking about.
You've done that. In all these properties that were just mentioned to you, you've done that, okay? Trustee Yukich.
All right, I have 3 questions and then a suggestion that I overheard. If we change it from the agricultural over to C3, does it change the tax on the property for the owner? No. First question. And the only reason I ask it, is from experience now, and Jamie knows about it. I bought a piece of dirt. We put the streets in, we put the lights in, put the sewer in, put the water in. There's nothing but. My taxes went from $225,000 to $218,000, and there's nothing there. So that I don't want the developer here to get stuck. There's nothing there right now. I'd like to have him give an opportunity to bring business in here.
My understanding, and I've done this before, is that as long as it's an active farm, it remains, even though it's reclassified as C3, and they're farming the property until they come forward with a approved plan, and it goes from an active farm to an inactive farm, it is taxed as a farm.
Yeah, Mayor, that's correct. It's based on use.
We learned the hard way. Second, my concern here is I want them to be able to develop as much as possible. So if you're only going up to the 600 feet and you can go up to the 1,200 feet, what's to say that they get some of this stuff in place and something comes up and they don't develop the additional, let's say it's 20 acres and we're going to develop 20 acres. Would it fall into a situation where it could go to non-use and we lose commercial? Because Homer does need it, and I know the piece of property is absolutely. That's why we wanted to do the ballparks there, because it would be a perfect fit. Stores up front, sports at back. It would have been perfect. But that didn't happen. But the whole idea is to get, you're in a position right now that you have a beautiful piece of dirt. You're right off of 355. You'd be basically the first kid on the block to have exactly what this village needs. And from there, growth should follow suit very quickly. Third thing that I wanted to know is, if we change it to Ag to C3 without any changes until the changes comes forward, does that make that property worth a whole lot more for the developer because of it sitting at Ag compared to C3?
I think it's just once again, I'll turn to George and he can answer the question, but in my real estate experiences is it gives the ability to the owner of property to be very clear with a potential business coming to that property, that the proper zoning is in place. It's not, I'm going to have to go back to the board and check it out. It's currently Ag, everything around it's C3. Now I got to go back to the board, that type of thing. What it does is it puts them in a position where they can advertise and market the property as commercial, and then they come back to the village board. Now, go ahead, George. I know you wanted to say something.
Well, let me just finish up with one thing, because this is what my suggestion was, and I overheard this, that in a case like this, why couldn't the village come up with more or less can the village come up with like a letter of intent that it would be exactly it's going to be zoned C3, so they basically have the same thing without us going through the motions right now, to where they would get exactly what they want without us putting ourselves out on a limb or him putting himself out on a limb.
Well, I think, and I'm not an attorney, and maybe the attorney could answer this, but I think if you gave them a letter of intent, it'd be just as good as, rezoning it to C3.
Well, but it's not.
But it's not rezoned to C3. All it's telling me is that we will rezone it.
To C3.
Correct.
Which is the same thing as saying it is C3. Go ahead, George. I know,
without the fee.
I know you wanted to, I know you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Which is just, I guess, going in order, 1, 2, 3. With regard to the taxes, I believe, that my understanding is, as the mayor said, that it's the use, and as Mr. Davis said, it's the use that is taxed, not the zoning. The zoning is irrelevant. And in this case, it's farm, and it would remain that way no matter what you zoned it. With regard to the second question, losing property, and this also kind of ties in a little bit to something Trustee Sable said. The whole purpose of being here is just to try to get people interested. This is to some degree, when we talk to, not me, but when my client talks to prospective users and prospective buyers or so forth, it's a blank slate, the commercial part, and the whole piece, really. You know, what works for you? How do you maneuver this? And after tonight, if you approve us, it will remain that way. We just want to get that conversation going, and you know, as everybody knows, things have changed in the development world, and people are cautious, and they want to know that they don't want to waste time if they don't think something's already zoned or so forth. I happen to think that it's from a practical standpoint, as an attorney who comes before this board, somewhat irrelevant, because I know that regardless of what you do here tonight, if you zone this commercial and grant our petition, I know that when we come in with a development, we have to come back here just like we always do, with a full plan, with a full request for a special use PUD, and the exact same process. And I know that, you know, this doesn't really necessarily get us ahead of the game and allow us to come in here and demand things, but it does seem to have a significant impact on the streets, so to speak. So, I mean, Trustee Sable, we want to have a conversation with your new Director of Development, but we want to get people interested to have that conversation. That's why we're here. Right now, we have nobody to have that conversation. We're trying to do that. The third question was the value. I don't know. I mean, it has value to my client because they feel that it'll make it more marketable. So, I mean, that's the reason they're here. So, I mean, it certainly has that value to them. I can't sit here and tell you that, you know, if you pass this tomorrow, it goes up in value or goes down. But I know it would have value to us.
I know one thing, and I'll pass it on to a couple of people who want to say something. This is like backwards. When you go, I do develop properties. You go out to the market asks, does it have entitlements? Yes or no? Is it zoned for my use? Yes or no? Okay, come back and talk to me when it's zoned in that fashion. You don't go and try to sell commercial property that is zoned agricultural. You go to the village, you get the commercial zoning, you come back, you go to your client, whoever it may be, and you say, yes, there are entitlements there, there's sewer and water there. Yes, the village has zoned that as a commercial entity, which is all around it and actually smaller properties. To say to George to have to go market the property as a piece of agricultural property for commercial, they laugh at you. The commercial entity laughs at you. They go, when you go back and you get it all in order, then come and talk to us. So this is going to be a never-ending, a dog chasing his tail. It's easy to zone a C3. He has to come back with a PUD that you're all going to have a chance to see. You're all going to be able to say, well, as part of this PUD, we'd like it deeper, we would like it wider, we'd like this, we'd like that. But this is actually backwards. You have to get the proper zoning in place for the applicant to be able to go to commercial people to sell the property and get them, or not sell the property, but get them interested in the property, whether it's a land lease or an outright buy by the commercial entity. Now, Mike, I've been holding off to Ted for a couple seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Ted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Trustee Costa. I don't see this as an extraordinary situation on zoning to a C3 in that area on 159th Street. But on the contrary, it is all part of that area. We heard the village manager talk about some other parcels in the area, 400 feet, 500 feet. I don't think that's an extraordinary issue. And as far as the request, I do believe it meets the comprehensive plan on the intent of the comprehensive plan. And if the premise of the comprehensive plan, when it was first put together, was to set up all these zonings without not knowing what's coming into those areas back many, many years ago, then this is true today. We're not quite sure what end users are going to be coming forward. I'm sure you're not quite sure who's coming forward yet, but when that does happen, it does not dismiss the opportunity for this board and the ability for this board to address the end user and how that property and the density of that property will be utilized, whether or not it's enough property or you need more or it's not the right fit for that property. So if we take this request and we believe in the comprehensive plan, this request is honorable, and I believe it is fair and just to request this and for us to grant it.
Okay, Trustee Costa?
Yes, first, just a question. Attachment E on the depth comparison. The blue shaded area, it says proposed rezoning area, and it says conservation area, 600 by 932. And then the proposed rezoning area in red is 600 by 1328. Is this just giving us a representation of the size that the developer wants to rezone as C3?
That's right.
Okay,
The
so
Planning Commission had asked when it was not as deep, we provided the Plan Commission with a similar visual so that they could see that it would not be able to accommodate the size of development that Dominic's was. And then when they increased the depth, we just changed the attachment. So that's what it's meant for, to give you a visual.
I just want to make sure I'm reading this properly, because the way I'm looking at it, it looks to me that the conservation area is much larger than the proposed rezoning area, according to, if you look at the blue and the red. I just want to make sure in my mind I'm looking at it right.
She might have it backwards.
Okay, just so I just want to make sure I'm looking at it right.
Because the non-deed, it's really deed restricted area.
Gotcha.
It's probably better. So the
You know, I think they're flipped.
yeah, they're just flipped. The description of them is flipped.
So the larger area is going to be the area for commercial,
Right.
not
The area
small.
of that is not deed restricted is larger than the deed restricted.
The legend is flipped.
Okay, then just comments from the other trustees and the mayor, what they said. You know, I'm all for development. I mean, we really need to kickstart our community here, and I think it's going to be quite challenging for our new director coming in with 159th being widened. Of course, it's an ongoing challenge for our existing businesses with that being widened also. So I think that the developer is looking at this and saying, you know what, if I can get out on the street and get something rolling, and hopefully have this thing ready to go, or possibly even an opening of a development by the time 159th, the ribbon is cut and it's all finished. So I'm more than likely that's in your mind. It's not like the concern of a couple of trustees, number one, is that the depth of 600 feet, they'd like to see it deeper. Now, the question was asked, you know, if we have the ability to say yes or no to a development coming in other words, if we don't want to see a strip mall there, we can say no to that? Is that a correct statement? Or no?
Yes.
Okay, it is. Okay, so that's number one question. Number two, and again, C3, I mean, multiple uses, so I'm not going to go into what stores is right for the fit for the area. The next question then is, if you go to 600 feet now, you're saying that in the future, that can be extended to 7, 8, 9, 1,200 feet. Is that correct? Just with the type of development that's going in on the commercial?
That's correct.
In other words, can this thing go back to 2,000 feet deep for
If you
commercial?
go back as far as the board allows it to go back.
You have, as you know, Mike, you know the area pretty well. You've got some other issues here.
Oh, yeah.
You've got pipelines running through there. We looked at that back when there were other concepts being run on this property. You also have residential neighborhoods on either side. You've got Evelyn's Gate and Stonebridge. So there is a depth that you will not exceed based upon you have residential neighborhoods on either side and pipelines. I can tell you this from being a developer, that they would like nothing more than to have more commercial and less residential, because their money is really in commercial. So if they get this zone, if they go out and they start marketing it, they're going to be looking more to expand the area than to stick to 600 feet deep. It's worth much more money, much more to them to have it commercially developed than to have a multifamily home development behind it that is cramping the commercial.
Well, it would also be better for the village.
And it would benefit the village, absolutely.
One of the things I wish we would have put, staff would have put in the background is just the surrounding properties. We all know them, but we don't talk about them a lot. So you've got, Parker Point, which you rezoned C3 without a plan. That's right adjacent to this part, right, not far. You got Gallagher and Henry, which you saw a plan, but you didn't adopt a plan. You rezoned it C3 without a plan associated with that zoning. I know that was part of a legal case, but this board did that. Then you have Marion Village. The front of Marion Village is C3, and there's no plan associated with that. That's immediately adjacent to this property, along with Stonebridge, which is C3 with no plan associated with it. So if you're looking to continue, I think a really good practice that the board, this board and other boards in the past have done is that you have done what a lot of villages do, which is try to rezone property to commercial as soon as the property owner asks for it, because you want to maximize that return for the village. So you've already got a standard operating procedure along here of rezoning property without plans attached, specific plans that are approved with that rezoning. So I think that this is no different than maybe other decisions that you've made over the course of the past couple of years, immediately adjacent to this property. So.
Okay. Trustee Nemick?
If what I'm hearing correctly is really the depth of the property isn't an issue because we can change that at any time, then why was the Plan Commission so concerned about, and the staff, about 400 feet instead of 600 feet?
Well, we were concerned about the 400 feet because I will try never to, we didn't recommend it. Staff didn't recommend it. And the reason, because I'll try never to recommend anything that isn't in compliance with the comp plan. And the comp plan very clearly says, a minimum, there's a minimum of 600 feet. So that's what and George, you'll say at the meeting, I was actually, staff did not support the 400 feet. And then the moment you agreed to move it to 600 feet, we changed. Yes. Said now, as long as it would be in compliance that way, we would support it. The Plan Commission was even after the petitioner at the meeting said that he would change it to 600 feet, not enough of the Plan Commission members were swayed. They had discussed it for quite a while at that point, and so.
So it was denied both at 400 and 600 feet?
It was.
Okay, and I've got the comp plan in front of, I pulled it up, and it says that most of the commercial growth areas located along 159th should be designed with lot depths of approximately 600 feet. It doesn't say minimum.
But I take that to be, because I think we always want it to be as much as possible, and so I would consider that to be minimum, because you start getting, 200, 300, 400 feet with setbacks on the road and detention requirements and everything else, it really becomes a strip mall situation, and your comp plan actually says along 159th, the strip malls are to be discouraged. Right. And so that's why it gets really tough.
And that has been my concern all along, because the vision for 159th was not to do the strip malls. To put this in context, what is the depth of Dominic's and Menards off of Bell Road?
That's when you have there, yeah.
That's 600 feet. So we're looking, if we approve this right now, that is a...
Dominic's would be considered a major shopping center, though. It would be different than like a Blueberry Hill. Blueberry Hill would be considered a strip center, okay?
And that depth is what?
What would Blueberry Hill be roughly?
A couple hundred.
I don't know that I can give you the exact number on that one, but...
A couple hundred.
Yeah, less 200, somewhere between 200 and 250 maybe. So that's a true strip center, but a shopping center, a food store with adjoining uses, which a developer is going to do because they're going to try to get their money back on the smaller shops, that would be different than a strip center. So if it fit a Dominic's, that would be great situation.
What I can tell you, I go back to saying, is that the applicant would absolutely love to see somebody come along that needs more property for commercial. It'd benefit the village, it would benefit the applicant. So the applicant is not saying that the plan he brings in won't be a plan that is in excess of 600 feet deep. He's just saying he wants to meet the minimums of the, what do you call it, comprehensive plan, get it rezoned so he can shop it, bring clients in. If the client comes in and says, well, we need more like 800 or 850 or the 900, at that point in time, they're going to have to put a plan together that takes into consideration the, like I say, the pipelines that are back there, what type of detention can be addressed at those type of depths. But he is standing in front of you asking us to be able to rezone it to something that is currently in the area at less standards than what he's willing to do, which is consistent with the comprehensive plan, so that he can move forward to shop the property to potential commercial developments within Homer Glen, right off a $100 million road. When I say $100 million, I'm referring to from Gauger all the way to 159th and LaGrange, because it's actually only about $80 million in Homer Glen. So with that discussion, Trustee Nemec?
When the comp plan was developed, we did not know what the setback would be with IDOT on 159th. And we still are, so do we know how much they're taking?
Well,
do we have an estimate?
We really don't. And the trouble with that situation is we don't know until the final discussions happen between the property owner and IDOT. And George, you might be, since the Plan Commission, do you have any more information about that?
Only that I confirmed that our engineers have been discussing with IDOT's engineers about, where that line's going to be, because there's also going to be some drainage there, and we want to encourage them or ask them to move it in a way that makes sense with the overall development. And, they haven't committed to anything, but they've been more than willing to have these conversations with our engineers. So it's kind of been an ongoing. So yes, we don't have any idea right now what the final taking will be, but they have been talking.
So we have a map that's a year old, okay, and we have asked for updated ones. We haven't received them yet. So we have a map, and I think are there copies? Mm-hmm. Everybody has copies of those. Okay. Right. So it's interesting. This portion of the property that you see in front of you, the circle, is one of the low points on the property. So IDOT has taken, in their first stab at detention, has taken and created this like funnel into the low point of the property, which makes a lot of logical sense at the start. But what we're finding and what we're hearing on 159th is, because there's a number of places where IDOT's original plan where they cut in to properties along 159th, most notably on the on the east side. And they're having discussions with property owners, and in many instances these are being adjusted. And so I don't want you to look at this and assume that this is what the final taking is going to be. The property owner and IDOT have to have discussions and determine that. And it's, quite frankly, based on my experience with other road projects with IDOT, it is in the developer's best interest to minimize the taking, because IDOT will not pay them typically what the property will ultimately be worth as a part of the larger development. So I'm assuming that they're going to try to minimize that as much as possible and reconfigure it so that, one, it's not right in the middle of the development, which is kind of problematic, and that it's spread out more. So what we can't tell you. But that
wasn't, I'm sorry, and I didn't make myself clear. I wasn't talking about the detention that they were taking. I'm talking about the widening of 159.
Sure. It's basically this, the taking is basically the taking, because if they actually did detention here, that would be undevelopable. So, right. So this is the strip here that's shown on the original.
So along 159th, how much is the road widening that when this comprehensive plan was approved, and the suggestion was approximately 600 feet deep. Now that 159th is widening, does that get pushed back to 650, to 700?
Sure. On back of the sidewalk, my understanding on back of sidewalk to the gray line is roughly 20 to 25 feet. Back of path. If the path, you can kind of see the path on.
So they're taking another 25.
So yeah, you can, yeah. 20 to 25 feet. But again, this was the original plan a year ago, and it may be.
Here's something that may sort of give you a little cozier feeling with this. With the cost of this property, and everybody knows what Frank Dunn sold this property for, there's no bank in the world that's going to they're going to finance a deal for a strip mall on this property. It doesn't yield to a strip mall. Financially, it doesn't yield to a strip mall. And I see George smiling out there because he knows what they paid for it because he was the attorney on it. This is going to be a substantial development. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get them the C3 zoning so they can go out and shop the property and bring a viable commercial entity here that will be a major player here in Homer Glen, and they will not get financed on a strip mall. He knows that, I know that, and anybody that's ever done commercial knows that. The property costs too much money to put a strip mall on it, plain and simple.
You got a hand over there.
Oh, excuse me. There he is.
I still had a couple points that I would like to just clarify. All right, number one, again, Trustee Nemec brought up a good point where the Plan Commission denied, said nay to 400 and 600 feet. Do we know why they said no to 600 feet?
Quite frankly, I would refer you to their minutes. I was at the meeting, and I'm not quite sure why.
Okay, and then,
there was never a follow-up. There wasn't a lengthy follow-up discussion on why the change to 600 feet did not convince.
Okay, and the board, when the PUD comes through, or once we see a PUD, the board can, if you need more land to go commercial, we can go back another 100, 200, 300, 400 feet if required.
You can go back as far as the property yields. As you remember, there are pipelines in there.
Right. I understand that.
And the neighborhoods and stuff like that, how far you view a PUD, or how far you view commercial going back with knowing there's neighborhoods on either side. Okay. So I can't tell you that off the top of my head.
Two more points of clarification, I'm sorry, then one last comment. So then, now my next question is that if in the future, no one knows what the future holds, if the owner of the property decides to sell the property before any development is made, can, by us saying yes to 600 feet, can that in any way change anything, stop us, hinder us from telling the next owner you have to go deeper to get this development, or no? Or basically is what fits on the property?
No, you're ultimately going to, a PUD is going to come in front of you, you're ultimately going to say that if you don't agree with it, you don't agree with it. It just isn't deep enough. Okay. It isn't the type of development we view for this piece of property, and that's that. I mean, the whole purpose of the PUD is to sit and discuss and try to get the proper business on the property and the proper size. It's a give and a take between the developer, and you're aware of this, and the village.
I just want to get everything straight because reading all the documents, you have something 400 feet, 600 feet, yes to 4, and then no to 6, and no to, so I just want to make sure I understand this thoroughly. So that if there's no tax implication, others, we do not want to cause any undue hardship on the landowner by saying, well, if you go with, let's say the words minimum of 600 feet, which the comprehensive plan would like to see at least 600, if there's no hardship or tax implications on going 900 feet, and everybody's saying, well, we don't want 6, we want it deeper, why not we just say yes to 900 feet?
Or all the way to the end.
Or go to 1,200 feet, then you can change it anyway later depending on your development. That's my question.
Well, typically,
let the applicant explain.
I mean, it's just a question.
Yeah, sure. And again, the whole purpose to be here, as has been expressed, is for the ability to market and have some flexibility. We know that we have to come back, but having been a part of many public hearings, we didn't want to be in a position where we did this to allow us to market the property, get some interest, come up with a plan, and then all of a sudden have that plan, instead of being 1,200 feet of commercial, be 1,000 feet back of commercial or something less. And now we're in a public hearing saying, gee, as part of our plan, we want you to get rid of some of the commercial and put some residential there. And then everybody says, why? Why is Homer Glen getting rid of commercial? I'm like, my lord, this is tax dollars. And we didn't want to be in that position while, because the only purpose is to try and make this happen. And we don't want to be in a position where all of a sudden we've hurt ourselves and hurt the ability of the Plan Commission and the board to consider the plan from a fresh perspective, whatever plan comes before us. So that's the reason.
I still got a question.
Okay.
Just last comment, what Trustee Yuka just said, and then I'm done, I'm sorry. Trustee Yuka just said, if, it seems like there's some concern on the board about depth and everything going on. Can the village act as a letter of intent, let's say, to the developer saying that we will zone this commercial, and the developer able to use that in his negotiations of trying to attract business? It's just a question.
Trustee Costa, you can't really commit future village boards to a decision. So the property owner wouldn't want to go out and market a property and finally get somebody in 2 years or 3 years, and potentially there's a different village board, and that village board doesn't agree with the letter of intent or something. So you can't really commit future village boards that way. Carrie, is that fair?
No, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. So that's the hard part with that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trustee Yukich.
I can ask George a question, correct?
Sure.
Would you rather have more or less? Is the easiest way to do it. I mean, if you've got an opportunity to use as much as you possibly can for commercial, which brings I know commercial property's worth a lot more than residential property is. So if you have an opportunity to take advantage of everything that is zoned commercial up there, this way we're done with it. You got the C3, and just let it go through that, rather than if you try to market to someone, let's say they do need a bigger space than what you actually have. Now you have to come, let's say, well, now I got to go back to the village on it.
Sure, but so there's the short answer to the question is we would like it to be the 600 that we're asking for tonight. That's what we want. But the reason is there's two parts to the development, so to speak. There's the marketing, trying to get the interested user, and that's why we're here today. And then there's the practical part about, okay, now we've got the interested user, the person who wants to be here, user, and now we have to come before the village. And that's the part that when we come before the village, we're back to where we've always been. We're going to have a plan, and I would bet anything that it's not going to be a 600-foot line across that's going to be commercial. It's going to be different. It's going to be deeper here, it's going to be more jagged, and it'll be laid out differently, just like the plans that the various concept plans on this property have kind of shown. So that's what I believe will happen, and that's why we're again just asking for the 600. We think it allows us the most flexibility to go out in the street and say, yeah, we've got commercial property right here. Get the discussion going, have the discussion, and then we go forward. And we want to do it in the way that we think is the best way possible without hurting us later on when we're coming back and then having, somebody say, well, gee, now you're killing tax dollars or something, when the whole point is just to get the tax dollars going. So,
George, I think what they're going to be looking for right out of the box is their lead store. And their lead store, depending upon the popularity and the viability and what have you, is going to bring, like any other commercial corner, other entities. They are going to, I would venture to say, with the right lead store, you may have to limit how many stores can actually go there, because it'll be a very popular thing. So what you're going to see from them, in my estimation as a developer, they will be back here trying to maximize this property commercially based upon a good lead store. And a good lead store will be looking to be on 159th Street when this commercial property is, or when, 159th Street is widened. Go ahead, George.
And I agree with you 100%, but I'm thinking now as a businessman that if you had a company that was big enough, because they are out there and they are looking right now, and then they saw that you only had this much set up as commercial, and a lot of these companies want it right now, pretty much like the mayor said before. They want everything in, which still scares me for you, because if you start putting the streets and all that other stuff in, it just kills you. But if you've got the dirt, you've got it available, and you're marketing it, I mean, you might not have a taker right off the bat, but you've already got everything approved, and you don't have to worry about it. And it also gives everyone an opportunity to come in here, because maybe I'm being selfish on this. When I first started thinking about that property, when we were looking at it before, is I'm tired of my wife going to Schaumburg. I'm tired of my wife going to Oak Brook. I'm tired of my wife going to the stores that are way up north and spending all the money up there. Not to make it sound greedy, but I want the money here for the village of Homer Glen. That sales tax is going to help us out immensely. The property tax will help us out immensely. It'd be nice to bring in the people from all over the other communities to come shopping in Homer Glen rather than everyone driving up north to buy the same stuff they can buy here. With a piece of dirt that you do have there and with what you have coming in, at least I hope you still have it coming in, that will bring in everything that you're looking for. It'll bring in everything that this village wants, needs, that Orland doesn't have. It'd be nice to be able to pick it up, and that's the only reason I'm saying right now. I would rather give it all to you right now. It costs you nothing. It will benefit you. So I'm just, I'm looking at it from the businessman's point of view on how hard it is to make a buck anymore.
Yeah,
Go ahead, George.
And we appreciate that, and I think we want the same thing. My client feels, from being out there and doing the marketing, that this is the best way to get to where you want to go and where they want to go. I think everybody wants to get to the same spot. As the mayor said, and as you have said, believe me, they want, as much commercial as commercial wants to come there and as much as the village will allow. So we just, my client thinks this is the best way to get to that point from where we are now.
And this is exactly the process. This is exactly the way it's done. You zone property so that he can go out and he can market it as a zoning district, not agricultural, because the first thing that somebody says to you, I'll go back, I'm reiterating, is they try to market it. He has agricultural property that he has to come back here, he has to get it zoned. Then once he gets that, then he has to go back and get a plan put together. And people don't sit there like that. The commercial entities say, is it zoned business? No, it's zoned agricultural. Call me when it's zoned business. I've been there, I've done it, and that's the process. So the request by Mr. Arnold here tonight meets the comprehensive plan. He has properties all adjacent to it that are less depth. He's telling you they want to maximize the commercial entity. It's in his interest, his property owner's interest. I say we give it to them and move on. They're going to be back with a PUD at some point. It allows him to go shop the property to potential quality customers that pay sales tax dollars here in Homer Glen.
All right, then the last question I have, do you have anyone right now that is looking at the property seriously?
Yes.
And I would like to know who they are.
Well, George, it's confidential. You can't stranglehold the guy to reveal his sources when it doesn't even appear it's his own property.
See, but it isn't, the one that I'm talking about isn't confidential because I had a realtor call me to tell me that I wasn't getting it because you were getting it.
I appreciate
You're
that, but
talking
I
about
will
your
say,
property?
we are.
You can't talk about that. Come on, man.
I think at this point,
Well, I
that's
heard
an
it on,
inappropriate...
I heard it on the street.
No, I understand.
It's an inappropriate question.
We're not far enough along, and we do have a confidentiality agreement with them, so I can't say.
All right.
And we're not far enough
Mr.
along for me
Mayor,
to say
I
we have a
have
commitment.
I won't ask again.
Okay, trustees, Nemec, we need to move this along. I mean,
I know.
it's a simple
I
request
just-
if we're going to do it or we're not going to do it.
I am looking at the use of the full property now, because, and as I understand, this has been through a number of renditions, and, bless you and Jamie's heart, you guys have really been looking at some great visionary things for this property. We know in one rendition, there was a significant amount of commercial up front, a community park in the back. That was one vision. The community park isn't going to happen, and the commercial is shrunken a bit. What's the intended use for the rest of the land now?
So if I may, Trustee Nemec, when you say the commercial has shrunken a bit, are you saying that based on the 600 feet here?
Right, because and the ones it was more, it was much more.
And I expect it to be much more and closer in line probably with those previous plans. Again, we're not here, saying here's the final plan at 600 feet across and the rest. So in answer to your question, not much. I mean, obviously no ball fields, but other than that, the plan now is residential. The anticipated plan is residential in the back where previously we had shown ball fields, and about the same amount of commercial as had been there before is the general concept. And we're trying to get it jump-started. We're trying to get, one first user in there, which will then hopefully, business likes business, will hopefully expand and let us proceed with the whole thing. So,
Okay.
yes, not much has really
Okay,
changed.
thank you.
Mayor, there is one kind of technical aspect to this vote which we don't typically have to deal with, and I was just hoping that the village attorney could just explain to the board real quick what a no vote would mean in terms of, if you could, because then they have the...
If you vote
1 year.
no, there's a 1-year period of time which must expire before a new request for an amendment to change the zoning can be made. Absent new evidence or a change, I don't want to misquote the ordinance, but I believe it's a change in the conditions, and the village board and plan commission would both have to make that determination.
Very good. Mayor, I just wanted you to be clear on that. 'Cause we don't do-
So they can't come back for 1 year. That's what
So,
it's
Said no.
so we kind of got backed up to the wall on this one then, didn't we? This is why some of these things need to come to a workshop, because now we've got a vote in front of us. And if they come forward and want to rezone within the year, and we say we have concerns now, we can't.
The petition would just have to change. They would have to add more depth, or there would just have to be a change to the petition. And of course, if you denied it, they would want to change the petition because you've already said no to the first petition, so it wouldn't do them any good to come
I'm
back.
feeling a little manipulated, by the way.
If
Well,
I
that's
understand...
just a rule you've had in place for a long time.
Yeah, if I understand it correctly, they just can't come back with the same
Right, the exact
application.
same one.
Right. They would have to come back with a different proposal.
Right.
Not the same proposal. So you're not being pushed in a corner. If you don't like the proposal, vote against it. But they can come back, but they have to come back with a different proposal. They just can't come back with the same proposal.
Right, and that proposal would have to go through the normal process, which means it would have to go back through the planning.
And let me ask a question, too, just for quick clarification here. Since the Plan Commission voted no, does that mean that we need a supermajority
No.
vote?
No.
Okay.
No, the only time a supermajority is required is if owners of 20% of the frontage immediately adjoining or across an alley from the property in question, or 20% of the frontage directly opposite the frontage proposed to be altered, submitted a written protest to the board.
Okay, Trustee Sabo, we need to, this is a pretty simple request here. It exists in 5 or 6 different parcels. Can we move this along to, if you don't want it, let's vote against it. If you want it, let's vote for it. Go ahead, Trustee Sabo.
Well, I think this is the opportunity to be thorough. I think that's why we're here. And I think the Plan Commission has done their job. The Plan Commission has denied this for certain reasons. I just want to go back to one thing that is just being said right now, that they could come back with a different proposal. Now, just to clarify that, does that mean, if we were to vote no tonight, does that mean that they could come back with a different proposal for the size of the property? Or certainly they wouldn't want to come back for different zoning, so.
Yes, they could come back for different size.
For a different size. Okay. First of all, I look at Dominic Shopping Center as a large shopping center, but it's also deficient in depth. I look at that as a strip mall. I look at this as a strip mall. I look at this property that's being proposed here as that could be possibly a strip mall. We say, well, it's a PUD, but who knows what's going to happen? As you say, we can't commit future boards, so we don't know. And then the other thing that is concerned when we're talking about size of the property is that there is a lowland or water problem there. And that means that less of this land is possibly not going to be able to be used. That's something that has to be considered in the depth or the size of this property. So I don't like to do piecemeal. I don't think there's a cohesiveness with that. It's a given that this property is going to be commercial. So I don't know what the issue is, and as far as a letter of intent, the mayor did say that's like rezoning, except we're not really committing. I think that's possibly a safer way to go.
The village attorney just advised you that you can't do that.
All right, okay. So then I will move on.
Okay.
Rezoning does not guarantee that you're going to get anything. And it's happened before. We've seen a property that was rezoned, then on 143rd Street in Bell, there were some problems connected with it, understand, but but the property could have gone, the development could have gone through. Then a plan was designed. There's still no tenants. And this has been a few years. So I'm saying that there really is not a guarantee at all. I still say rezoning something without knowing is poor planning, whether we've done it before. It is still, I still make that statement. As far as Gallagher and Henry on Parker and 159th Street, we knew that a jewel store was going to go in there. I think that when they know that what store is going to go in there, it's like a magnet. So if you have a store that is looking at this property, then that's a draw, and that's the magnetism that you need to be selling of this property. One other thing is, you want to rezone 31.1 acres. That's not all that you cannot develop all of that commercially. Because I understand from what we've read that 8.6 acres is the deed restriction, yet on the map, we are told that that is the commercial part that you want rezoned. That doesn't make any sense to me. Why not take the 8.6 deed restricted area, put that amount onto the commercial property because that's exactly where the development is going to be. It is not on the deed restricted area. So I really do question all that. So I feel that this board needs more time, or this board needs to say no. It's not a simple request. It is a request that is going to have consequences for us if we do not do this right. And I would like to have our new development director take part in this. She would certainly be able to help market this, and then you would get what you want. There is nothing in that comprehensive plan that says that this will not be commercial. I think that's being overused to say that or misinterpreted that it would deny or people from coming. So it's just not marketed right.
I thoroughly disagree with Trustee Sabo. I think we are holding this applicant up. I believe he should get the zoning. I think he should be able to go out and market his property for business for Homer Glen. It has been an accepted application. He's larger than what we've approved in the past. He meets the intent of the comprehensive plan, and I can see it tomorrow in the newspaper how Homer Glen once again stands in the way of commercial development. People to be able to go out and market their property. Now, this is an accepted practice that has taken place on many circumstances. I do not see the rationale behind why you make this an acceptance.
I don't think that, I think if the reporters, I do have one thing to say, if you have a comment on mine.
Go right ahead.
No one is standing in the way. We want this to be commercial. We want it to be a good commercial. It's just the approach that the petitioner is using compared to how I feel. And I do not understand why he would want to market 31 acres or 31.1 acres when 8.6 of that is not commercial. So I would say that the least that can be done would be to remove that commercial on a piece of property that is now conservation area and with the legacy of this family, this Dunn family. You're drawing it in as commercial.
The deed restriction has nothing to do with the commercial
market it-
application of C3.
Right,
I
why
checked that with the
market it- why
attorney.
market it as commercial?
The attorney, because they have certain rights, Margaret. I don't know if you know about the conservation easement language. They have rights to do detention and things in that area. So, you know, to say that it isn't part of a commercial entity is absolutely incorrect.
Excuse me, but you're putting a little different spin on this.
No, I'm not putting any spin on it.
8.6 the 8.6 acres is in front. They can use the detention from it. There's going to be a road there. They cannot put any buildings on it. They have to use what is there or fix it up or so forth. The thing is that if they are marketing it as commercial for 31.1 acres, it's misleading to think that 8 acres or 8.5 acres of that can be built on.
Okay,
really disagree with.
If Mr.
Go
Mayor,
ahead,
wait a
Trustee
second. You know, with
Janice.
any development, regardless if it's 600 feet back or whatever, there's going to be undevelopable area from roads, as you stated, Trustee Sabo, detention areas. The petitioners in front of us today asking us to rezone to C3 on the minimum requirements under the comprehensive plan. We understand and we know that in the future, when they bring forward a development and a plan, we will sit here and we'll go through hours, painstaking hours, deciphering that development, whether or not it fits in that property, whether or not they need more property for zoning Z3. We understand that. We also understand the 600 feet setback on this, coming back. That's the minimum. It won't go to 400 feet. It'll go forward. We're talking about a baseline. This is the minimum baseline under the comprehensive plan, and we go up from there. It'd be very tough for the owners of the property and the petitioners to come in and say, well, I need 825-foot setback, when they don't know what developments are coming in. They don't have a contract. They don't have a set agreement with anyone at this point in time. So we cannot assume for one moment who's coming in, because that is an assumption, and we don't want to get into assumptions. So we understand this. Now, we're talking about 600. We're not going to ask the petitioner to throw a dart up against the wall and try to come up with the best economic guess for themselves, because at the end of the day, they won't be right. They'll ask for more or they'll ask for less, and the likeliness of us granting less is going to be very difficult.
Okay, we've had quite a bit of debate on this. Everybody has their own feelings on it. If everybody's done, go ahead, Trustee Nemec.
Let me just ask, is there urgency surrounding this tonight?
Yes, I mean, yes, in the sense that they've been urgently trying to get something going here for a very long time.
Right.
And, you know, we started this process, a couple of months ago, and we're kind of in the season. I mean, so, yes.
And the only thing is, I do believe, I mean, I'm ready to see this as C3. There's been a lot of information shared tonight, some answered by you, by staff, and truly, this is the first time we've had an opportunity to discuss it. I'm just not certain that I'm ready to vote one way or the other tonight. I don't want to, out of hand, deny this. I do not want to do that.
Okay, well, he's the applicant. He came forward based upon his timetable and is asking you to consider it, to vote on it. And if you don't want to vote on it, then I suggest you abstain because you think it needs more time.
Well, no, I could do one other thing. I could make a motion to table.
You could do that, and I think it's an injustice to him.
And then, just to give, so that we are not rash, we're not making a decision that is going to impact your client in the future. I am concerned about the a number of things. I realize with the Plan Commission's decision that we have 60 days in which we need to act on this, one way or the other. We can't not act on this. So if you, I don't know what the rest of the consensus is, but I am conflicted about this at this point.
I made the motion. I would like to amend my motion to table this.
You
And
withdraw your motion.
I withdraw my motion. The second, okay. I withdraw my motion.
Who was the second?
George.
I was.
Trustee Yukich?
I think we should just vote on it.
Okay, so how does that work, Kerry?
Well,
Withdraw the motion and re-enter it.
make a new motion to consider the ordinance as presented.
Okay, so trustee Sabo withdrew her motion. Trustee Yukich did not remove his second, so we need a new motion to move forward with I-7, which is consideration for approval ordinance number 12-049, an ordinance granting a map amendment changing the zoning clarification of certain real property hereinafter legally described and located generally at 14059 West 159th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, from A1 Agricultural Zoning District to C3 General Business District, commonly referred to as the Dunn Farm. Is there a first?
So moved.
First by trustee K. Janice,
Second?
second by, well, George.
Yeah, how does it work? He didn't withdraw.
He didn't withdraw. So, George, are you?
George becomes the first.
Motion still stands.
No, they made a new motion. It's a new motion on the floor. George, do you want to second the motion, or do you want someone else to second the new motion?
Second, that's okay.
George, you want to second the motion, or do you want somebody else to do it?
I don't know, this seems like it should be just such an easy thing to do, and it's hard.
It is.
And here, seeing I have an opportunity to talk right now, I'm going to take advantage of it. I think what the problem is what a lot of the board is feeling right now.
George, I think if we're going to open it back up for discussion,
Then it has to be seconded.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ.
So,
Okay, are we voting? Let's vote.
Did you second?
Yeah, I second.
okay, so George seconded.
All right, so now that I second,
Now that you seconded, you can discuss it again if you like.
here's a dilemma that I have. And Cameron, I called you at least a month and a half ago. I don't mark everything down of what my concerns were about the property and what was coming in at it. We both agreed we knew what was coming in. Where I have a problem is, we get this packet Friday, and we have to read through it, and we do have some questions to it, and the only place we can get the questions answered is here. Well, when we're asking the questions, and then we're told that now we have to make up our mind right now because you're kind of backs in the corner. And I do understand that because, like you just got done saying, this has been going on for 4.5, maybe 5 months. Well, I'll tell you what, the first time we're talking about it is right here. Because again, where I have a problem with some of this stuff is I can't talk to these guys and ladies and see what their feeling is about this unless it's in an open meeting. Well, the only time we have an open meeting is when we have the meeting. So it's kind of getting crammed down our throats. I want this. I want this so bad I can taste it because I know what it'll do for the village. But at the same token, I agree with what I'm hearing up here. There is no plan put before us. I've seen Jamie's plans. I know what he can do and what he will do, but you don't have something in front of us. I asked a question and I understand they're saying it's not anybody's business. I shouldn't ask a question, but you know what? It is my business. I'm still even a resident here besides being a trustee. And all they're looking for is that something's not going to come in and it's going to stab them in the back. And I know what's coming in won't stab them in the back, but I can't say what it is. Jim,
George, I trust you. I
Politics
trust
sucks.
you.
This is a very simple thing. This is really a simple thing, but we make such a big deal out of nothing.
It's a zoning change. That's all this is. Any plan has to come back in front of the village. It's a simple zoning
Just call
request.
for a vote.
Go ahead, Trustee Costa, then I'm calling for the vote.
Just
Call
everything
for
that
a
we've heard
vote,
tonight
please.
and the issues back and forth, I truly believe that if this comes back in 2 weeks or 4 weeks, we're going to be here for 2 hours discussing it again.
Okay.
That's my feeling. If they go to 800 feet, we're going to want 9. If they go to 9, we're going to 11. That's my personal feeling.
Yeah, and I just,
Okay.
I just real quick, I want to be very clear. Staff doesn't know what's coming on this property, okay? So this is not a situation where I have not called the trustees and shared with them. You don't know until you know, okay? People talk about this, that, this might be here, this might be there. So there is no understanding between the property owner and village staff about a end user coming on this property. If there was, I would have told you.
Correct. There's names that flop around pending the fact that it is zoned commercial, okay? Now, there's nothing there if it isn't zoned commercial. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee K. Janice?
Aye.
Trustee Nemick?
Aye.
Trustee Sabo?
No.
Trustee Yukich?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee DeVivo?
Aye.
I'm voting in this one, too. Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see here, where are we at? Is there any old business? Okay. Now, under new business, Trustee Costa would like to provide a report on the proposed budget expenses for the 2013 Homer Community Fest. Trustee Costa?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I will try to keep this very short. Thank you.
Okay.
In our a couple meetings ago, we did have an accounting of our last fest. So with that, the committee has been going over our budget for a couple meetings, actually. What you have in front of you here is a proposed budget, and again, please, it is proposed. We feel our figures are fairly accurate. We also know that there may be some very minor increases and some decreases in some of the numbers because some businesses have not updated their costs yet. Let's say, like, for example, the tent company. We also know, we don't have contracts with some of the, like the carnival yet, so there could be some changes in that, actually for the better, but we want to present something to the board to show you that, what our expenses are proposed and also what our proceeds could be. So again, please, this is right now a budgetary number. I think based on last year's numbers, our expenses, we feel are fairly accurate. And the proceeds, of course, we actually brought down a bit from last year because, again, we cannot anticipate what the weather's going to be like 8 months from now.
Okay, this is a proposed budget, Mike?
It's a proposed budget, yes. What we want to do is show the board that the amount of money that we feel we need to put the fest on compared to the money that we've generated in the past year, that, what our budget is going to entail.
When do you expect to come forward with a budget?
Probably when we get done, not probably, I shouldn't say probably, I'm sorry, when we get done negotiating with, the bands, pretty much we have a budget. We know where we want to stay, for example, with the bands and lighting. What's a bit of an unknown right now is probably the tents for my rental company.
I'm talking more of a time frame so that...
Oh, time frame, you know what, honestly, Mayor, I'm thinking right after the first of the year.
Okay.
Okay, but we want to get something on paper just to show you that we are within budget.
Okay.
And that, based on the last 2 years, we've used these numbers,
And John has all the closed-out numbers from last year?
Yes, he does. Everything is in,
Okay.
finalized.
Great.
In fact, we approved I believe, the check to the township tonight in our accounts.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
everything is...
Right, and one of the things that John is going to do, John's going to work with Trustee Costa and Trustee Yukich in the committee and come up with a proposal for the board for your next budget cycle that's going to involve, the money that was made on the last festival and the money that we'll budget going forward, and trying to separate that off into a separate account, a separate fund. He doesn't know yet, but he's going to work with them, and then it'll all come to the board at the same time.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. Is that your report then, Mike?
Yes, and just finally, on the last page, it's on the K1 on the supplemental sheet, just a clarification. It says the proposed expenses total $79,555 and proposed proceeds of $101,950, which leaves the proposed cost of $22,000. It's actually it's proceeds of $22,395, just so it's not confusing to anybody.
Okay.
Okay, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Is there any other new business? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
First by trustee Sabo.
Second.
Second by trustee Costa. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Meeting adjourned.